So we're ready to get started here with the inductions now for the pioneers and legends. We induct into two categories, the pioneers being those folks that didn't directly race, but everything else that encompasses the sport, and the legends being the race car drivers. Every inductee gets a chance to give a speech, and they also have one or more individuals that give them their introduction and share some stories as well. So if this is your first time here, that's a little bit about how the program will work. We'll go back and forth between the pioneers and the legends all the way through the 10 inductees that you see on the stage with us here tonight. Back to the legend category for inductee number 4, it is driver Corky Wynn and Richie Arnold to give the introduction.
It's a privilege to be here tonight to share this moment with one of my very best friends for over 60 years. One of the first things I found out about racing through Corky and his dad was it takes a big commitment and you have to put a lot of time and energy in it to be successful at it. And I also found out in my high school years when we became really good friends, we played sports together, chased women together, and all that fun stuff. There was a lot of perks to being friends with a family that owned race cars, because you got to go across the country, and thought I was helping, but about all I was doing was eating little crackers and peanut butter and the roast beef sandwiches that his mom made. But I got to see racing from a different side. Instead of a fan, I was on the pit side, and I could come home real dirty and felt like I'd done something. Don and Corky did all the work. But one of my fondest memories, the first race I got to see Corky win was at the old West Plains Speedway on this end of West Plains. And I don't think he'd raced a handful of races, but went down there and ran okay in the heat race, got to the A feature and started back in the back quite a ways. A 25 lap feature, and coming in the last lap, going into turn 4, Corky was in 6th place. Between the number 4 corner and the start finish line, he passed 5 of the top area drivers. I jumped out of my shoes and got real excited. The crowd was just roaring. Then I saw something totally amazing. He cut the car sideways, came across the pits, jumped it on the hauler, probably running 50, 60 miles an hour. Now, Don's hauler was an old stud-nose truck, and the bed set up about this high. I think the ramps were about 10 foot long, and they were at about a 45-degree angle. He hit those ramps. The front tires were off the ground. He hit the brakes, just barely bumped the spare tire, and did not get into the back of the hauler. And I thought, oh my God, he's illegal. We got to get out of here. So I'm going to try to get the ramps on the truck, and so he can get chained up, because surely they won't tear him down, you know, if we're already on the hauler. What it was, his radiator had been plugged for about the last 4 laps, and he was taking a steam bath in that car. But it was a pretty amazing feat, and I've been very fortunate to get to share some of these with Corky. And I'd like to introduce my friend, Corky.
Well, I think I've only told 2 grown-ass men I love you in my life, and one of them was on, October the 9th of 1974, the night before my dad died at St. John's at the time. We had kind of a little mini party. Dad had terminal cancer, and we'd been racing up in Avila, Indiana, and a little track called Spartan Speedway at Flint, Michigan, and came back home, and I was wanting to run another race down at Louisville, Kentucky, but Dad couldn't swallow. Just having really big, strong men didn't let you know they were sick, you know, in 1974. And Dad was a pretty strong guy. And so we came on home in 30 or 90 days he was dead. But I remember our little party the night before he died. Terry Brumley was in the hospital, kind of sharing our little party and a few little friends and the family. And they're just some things that you never forget in your life. And Dad had one driver for 22 years, and so I've been around racing all my life from 1950 to the present. Although I had a number of years, I quit when I was 25, and I couldn't go see a race because, like you know, you're addicted, and you can't go watch it. It just kills you to watch somebody else racing when you're not out there. And I can go watch Eisenhower at Fairgrove now, and I still want a dadgum race car, and I turned 69 12 days ago, and it's really not realistic. Well, don't tell Graybill that. It's really not realistic to want one, but you still do. What I remember about racing, looking back now, because I wasn't one of the great racers, I was just, how did I write this down? Never as good as I wanted to be, but then I was not as good as I thought I was. But that's true of almost any competitor. I don't care what you're doing. You got to really think you're good. And I knew I wasn't as good as a lot of these people at Fairgrounds Speedway the first 3 or 4 years I was racing. And then after I quit, I came back 4 years later, and in 79 and 80 drove for an old boy that had this racetrack down West Plains. And I had forced myself to go watch a race, and this guy wasn't any good at all. And he had a pretty good old car. I didn't know it was a 6-year-old Hout car on Coil Springs, an old pavement car from Ohio. And I told him, if you let me drive that car, we'll win some races. So he said yes. And we drove it next year too, and won a race or two, and had a lot of fun with it. Steve Long, I don't know if he was with Bobby Jones then, but Ron Benner up at Northside Machine, they furnished me a motor free, and we cut 300 pounds off that old 6-year-old car and went and raced it and had a lot of fun. Keith Jantz, my buddy down in Texas now, he was the city manager of Aurora, and he was my crew chief. His son runs a Black Diamond now, mostly in Ardmore and 2 or 3 tracks in southern Oklahoma and Dallas area. But he has to call an engineer in Charlotte every week now. You know, I call Larry Moore. I think he may have been living in Danville, Kentucky at the time, but I call Larry Moore every Monday morning because I told him the first this season, now I've got to outrun Larry Phillips. And Larry Moore has a big ego as anybody else that races, like we all do. We're just normal people, and sometimes we think we're good even though we're not as good as we want to be. And so Larry gave me setups. He'd say, here's what I ran at Sonoya, Georgia, a 100-lapper last night, and I had taken my old coil springs off and put the Chrysler Leaf springs on. So Larry had a brand new car that I had tried to make my car into his. So he gave me setups, and shoot, we started winning a few races. And it's just knowing the right people. Like Richie, I think he and I both got in a little scuffle, not against each other, but we're involved. The day we started first grade, I was 5, and you've got some friends like that. When my dad died in '74, I had moved to Aurora, Missouri. I'd been living in Waynesville, coaching up there, and I didn't know Kenny real well, and he was a competitor, so I didn't like him as much as I do now. But he offered me a place to keep my car in the turkey shop in Crane, or what do we call that place down there? Horny Buck Ridge, yeah, down by Wheelerville. And you know, I thought that was something for somebody that was a competitor. Of course, after the fact, Kenny's helped a lot of people. I just appreciated that he offered to help me. That's just not common in life a lot of times. And as it turned out, Wayne Woody and Richard Gerke gave me their shop for a while to work in their shop, so I got to keep my car and ran it 4 races and sold it. But it's kind of hard to leave all your friends in Hartville and all your help and your dad, which is a lot of your financial help, and go anywhere. And what I remember looking back is all the people. And some of them I consider very, very dear friends. And when I was racing against them, I almost did not like them. And like I would drive to Montgomery, Alabama to be with Bob Newton and Ed Howe just to buy a set of 180-degree headers instead of driving across town to buy them from Larry Phillips. Because I wanted to see what Ed could teach me, and all they did was test the whole day on a little half-mile pavement track and then cuss each other. They go back out for 5 minutes, run 4 laps, and come back in and cuss each other. I didn't know Yankees talk like this. That's just the way they operated, you know, they were different people. And anyway, I wrote down a few notes. I want to be brief. I'm not a Dick Trickle, I'm not a Phillips, I'm not a Wallace, nor a Roper, nor Carl Edwards. I'm not an Essary, I'm not a Mooneyham, not a David Bates, let alone an Eisenhower, which I think is probably the best driver in this area since LP died. Of course, LP taught him a little bit too. I used to absolutely love racing. I was totally addicted to it. I'd park my car hauler on Friday afternoons at the fraternity house, and we'd all go to the racetrack and they'd watch me race. And nothing on earth like it except for 1 or 2 other things, and most of those we don't talk about in mixed company. But I want to thank you all very much for including me in your thoughts, and including me in this particular class, because in a way you're almost insulted when you're not inducted when you really competed hard, but the proof's in the performance. My performance wasn't what I wanted it to be and what I expected out of myself, so that's why I couldn't do it anymore. And been around my friends for months each year, over 65 years. It's been a blast. Some of these guys like Willie and Ken Digg and Bud McKee and Newkirk and a bunch of these guys are like my uncles growing up, because we raced 5-7 races a week in the 50s and early 60s. And you can make $90 or $100 a night and actually make money racing. Now you have to employ an engineer and buy all your stuff, and I like building stuff. I'm going to yield my time to all these other drivers who are more than deserving of my time, and they've earned their accolades with decades of performance, where I didn't do that. I was a spectator and a cheerleader for a bunch of them most of the years since I was racing, so I appreciate y'all very much. Thank you.